It's not a requirement for movies to make strong moral arguments, but the best ones always do. However, even when they do make movies with strong moral arguments, it is rare for those in Hollywood to heed the morals of the stories they tell, especially when it comes to themes of youth, beauty, and success. The obsessed artist trope is just one of many examples. And as all fiction contains some semblance of the truth, these stories tell of a very real danger that many artists fall prey to. These stories of obsession have been told again and again and again, and they are meant to warn us as we watch them of how far we'll go to gain success. But Hollywood doesn't seem to want to listen. Also, if you're new here, hi, my name is Rachel, and I like to talk about good stories and try to think well about them. I also do the occasional cozy deep dive, and that's kind of what this video is. So if that sounds fun to you, please go ahead and subscribe. And also like this video if you want to see more like this. It really helps me out to kind of just gauge what you guys are liking, and also helps me as I'm kind of still in the beginning of my whole YouTube journey and all that. So thank you so much for being here, and let's get right into it. Okay, so obsession. It's not often framed as a good thing, but what if the object of the obsession is art? Seems more so like a worthy cause, right? Filmmakers and artists have been exploring this theme in its many forms for years. And while they are very often framed as cautionary tales, there can be sometimes a sort of romanticism that encapsulates the story. There's the thrill of being brought to your limits for something outside of yourself, which can be taken as a sort of altruistic stoicism by certain people. Somewhere in each of these stories is the idea that the ultimate demonstration of commitment is sacrifice, and that often comes at the cost of the person who is committing to their art. The boundaries of determination and the deprecation of the physical and emotional self begin to blur. So let's talk about one of these tropes as it pertains to the movie La La Land, which is one of my favorite movies. Just a spoiler alert, I will be talking about the ending of each of these movies, so if you don't want to hear about that, sorry. But I think I've given you enough time to watch them if you wanted to see them. It's like been at least, oh my gosh, almost 10 years. It has been almost 10 years since La La Land came out. I don't even want to think about that. Anyways, at the end of La La Land, there's this moment where Mia and Sebastian lock eyes across a crowded jazz club. And there seems to be a sort of mournful understanding that passes between them. They both got what they wanted. He has this jazz club and she's become a famous actress, but they lost each other in the process. And the montage at the end that is so beautifully done and so reminiscent of the golden age of Hollywood is heartbreaking because it is asking you to decide which would have been better for them to choose. Director Damien Chazelle said that he wanted it to be an exploration of the idea that sometimes love isn't enough. Sometimes two people can be perfect for each other but not end up together because they want two different things. Now let's go back to 1948 to Powell and Pressburger's The Red Shoes. The film, a fairy tale inspired ballet story, blended escapism with tragedy in a way that resonated with audiences, making it an instant hit. It's now widely regarded as a must-watch if you're into film, and Martin Scorsese has even said that it inspired him to become a director, which is pretty cool. In the movie, Vicky Page is a dancer who basically lives for the ballet, but her producer ends up giving her an ultimatum. She can choose to continue dancing, or she can choose to go and be with the man that she loves.
I could make you one of the greatest dancers the world has ever known. And all that means nothing to you?
You know exactly what it means to me.
In the end, she can't choose, so she literally runs in front of a speeding train in the red shoes that marked her career. The film uses bold, vibrant color in a really interesting way. The bright, almost violent red of the ballet shoes against the grayish tones of Vicky's everyday life. It creates this really incredible contrast between her passion for dance and the way that passion has dulled her everyday life. The red shoes aren't just shoes, they've become this symbol of desire and passion, an alluring beacon amidst a seemingly boring life. The filmmakers were distorting the question, what would you do for love, into how far would you go for your craft? Would you go to the grave? Vicky did. Fast forward, and The Red Shoes continues to have its impact on audiences and filmmakers alike. The film specifically inspired director Darren Aronofsky, who created The Black Swan as a more violent, intense version of The Red Shoes. In this movie, Natalie Portman plays an incredibly talented ballerina named Nina, who is up for her dream role, but she can't seem to lose herself into the more passionate side of the White Swan, which is the Black Swan. Once a new ballerina enters the scene, she is further threatened, and then she just begins to spiral into paranoia, self-harm, and even hallucinations. In the final performance, she nails it. She becomes the Black Swan, literally, and she kills herself in the process. That's the dream, right? To be so good at something that it justifies everything you did to get there. 4 years later, Damien Chazelle explored themes of ambition and obsession in the movie Whiplash. Of course, this one is a fan favorite about a drummer who is pushed to his limits, similarly to these other stories we've talked about. Each of these stories, we see these similar beginnings where there is a passion for the craft, an innate talent for what they love. Someone comes along, a mentor that is a catalyst to them pushing themselves to their limits. The purity of the love for the art decays and becomes a distorted version of it that pursues much more than what the normal artist would pursue for the sake of love. Instead of love, it has become obsession. And I think at the heart of what these mentors are trying to say is some semblance of truth. Commitment is good and it's worthwhile to push ourselves. But there's also a very problematic philosophy here. Art requires sacrifice, and if you're not willing to destroy yourself for your art, then maybe you don't want it bad enough. Unfortunately, similar to movies about how clinging too tightly to one's youth are often largely ignored, especially by those in Hollywood, these types of films are not taken to heart as much as they should be. Many are still swayed by the allure of greatness and recognition and success. And I'm not saying that everyone who is at the top of their game has sacrificed everything to get there, but take them at their own word.
At the end of the day, anyone that doesn't want to continue doing what they're doing and realizes that there's a bit of a sacrifice to being able to fulfill your dreams should go do something else.
Best thing I'd ever heard about acting that my wife said, don't do it unless you have to.
Many have indeed sacrificed greatly, and many who have made it to the top admit there is emptiness to be found there.
When you have all this stuff, doesn't mean you're happy.
When I got it, I mean, I won't say it was a depression, but you kind of go through a disappointment because that fame or that thing didn't satisfy the way you thought it was going to satisfy.
And I remember thinking, does she really think that when CBS picked up the show, it left me with an inability to feel anything other than unbridled joy? But the joke was on me because I kind of thought it would. I had bought into the not uncommon notion that when I taste success, when I get over there, then I'll be happy.
And the demands don't stop when you become an A-lister either. In order to maintain that status, they continue to push themselves to create some unforgettable performances. And their methods aren't always the healthiest. People like Daniel Day-Lewis and Leonardo DiCaprio are known for going method. This can help them get into the mind of the character, but I can't help but wonder what it means for the people around them. What is their relationship with their partner if they're acting like a completely different person for months at a time while shooting a movie? I guess if the person is also in the industry, that would make things a little bit easier, but I can't imagine this being a very healthy way to go about real relationships. Isolation and sleep deprivation were two things that really impacted Heath Ledger's mental health while he was preparing for the role of the Joker in The Dark Knight. Tragically, he passed away 6 months before the film was released. Now, Heath Ledger's family does say that they don't believe these things led to his death, but I can't help but wonder if they had some sort of negative impact on him. Maybe by returning to the story of the Red Shoes, we'll be able to better understand this issue. The original story of the Red Shoes follows a poor poor girl who desperately desires to own these red dancing shoes and be seen in them. When she is taken in by a kind old woman, she abuses the woman's kindness and goes out to buy and wear the shoes. Ultimately, she abandons the dying old woman to go to a ball and dance in the shoes. But the girl, having gotten what she wanted, must pay the piper. The shoes begin to dance of their own accord. Desperate to free herself, she must beg an executioner to chop off her feet with the red shoes in them. It's pretty brutal. But at the end of the story, we understand that vanity is a costly vice. Now, as I said before, there is something to be said about the pursuit of excellence. It is not wrong to desire to be the best that you can be at something that you love. And you should discipline yourself to pursue excellence at the cost of your own comfort. But here's the missing piece. What we want is not always what we need. Sometimes we confuse desire with purpose. We think that if we get that role, if we land that job, if we get a goal that we were striving to accomplish, then we will finally feel whole. And this isn't just for creative people in the arts. Honestly, I think a lot of girl bosses need to hear this too. I think just our cultural mindset around striving for productivity drives us to levels that we know are not healthy for us, but we continue to push forward because we think that if we just get that goal that we are trying to accomplish, we are gonna feel like we've made it, like we can fill in the emptiness that we've been feeling our whole lives. But when you build your entire identity around wanting something, what happens when you finally get it? There's a truth that Powell and Pressburger knew in 1948, that Aronofsky knew in 2010, that Damien Chazelle knew in 2014 and 2016. And it's this, that obsession is a beautiful lie that only delivers emptiness. Passion is beautiful, but when the passion consumes the person, then what's the point? And maybe the real tragedy isn't that the artists sacrificed everything. Maybe the real tragedy is that they thought they had to. That culture told them that suffering equals commitment and that balance is mediocrity. But what if the true art isn't the performance? What if it's the life that you live outside of it? The best version of the artist is the one that can passionately create without needing that art to complete them. These films are beautiful because they show us something true, that getting what you want doesn't always guarantee happiness. And they also show that when your art, when your passion becomes a god, you can easily sacrifice yourself on the altar of greatness. And that's the real lesson. Your art, your passions, they are worth pursuing, but they're not worth sacrificing the things that really matter for, and they're certainly not worth dying for. The beauty of life is that there is so much to live for, and being a healthy and present person for the people that you love far outranks receiving the most acclaim. It sounds crazy to have to repeat these truths that these movies say. It feels like it should be an obvious thing, but I know for myself, when I was really pursuing acting, there were moments where the ideologies of needing to really give everything to pursue that goal, and everyone saying, if you're not giving everything, then you don't want it bad enough. So many people would say, if you can do anything else, do something else. And that's just such an all or nothing mindset that is so unhealthy and honestly unnecessary. You can pursue art, love art, do things well, and not give your absolute everything to it. And it's okay. The questions we should be asking ourselves when we watch movies like this is not, am I brave enough to sacrifice everything? But am I brave enough to sacrifice my desires for the things that really matter? Did Mia and Sebastian get what they want at the end of La La Land? I don't know. Maybe love wouldn't have been enough for them. Would it be enough for you? What makes life truly meaningful? Is it achieving your dreams, gaining success and acclaim, or is it something greater?